and how to lose and how to choose.
Well, hello again. This is Linda Carbonell, and welcome to another edition of Walking Through Life. Today I have a guest with me. Her name is Kathryn Samuelson, and Kathryn wrote this book here. It is called Opening the Heart, and we're going to be talking about that today. So nice to see you, Kathryn. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. Thank you for letting me be on your show.
Oh, yes, and thank you so much for this beautiful book.
Oh, you're welcome.
I was skipping through it, and it's a lot. I mean, it's just wonderful. You know, you open a page, and you got this inspirational stories and a story, you know, or saying, I should say. So, what brought you to write this book? What was it that inspired you to it?
I started exploring the psychic in 1993, and working with my angels and guides. I eventually moved out to Massachusetts, and I've just moved here from Massachusetts. And in the course of that, someone who was also very intuitive looked at me and said, I think you're supposed to create a set of angel cards. And it started from there and evolved into meditation cards, which are based on 28 pairs of seeming dualities. Because if you read anything about the quantum world, on the quantum level, it's all one and interconnected. And they're things that are either or, you know, they're not either or, they're both.
Yeah.
And so it evolved into this book. And eventually we moved it from being cards into a book so we could get it published, self-published. I got very blessed with my book designer and my photographer. They live in Windsor. So knowing them and coming up here to work on the book helped me move up here.
Yeah. So now you live in Wilder, so you're closer now.
Yes.
And I wanted to get to what you do for work, what your living
Right.
is.
I'm a life coach.
And could you explain to people what that
Well,
is?
I'm certified by the University of New Hampshire. And a life coach, you're not really a full-fledged counselor, but you are supportive. You provide a support system. You help somebody figure out what their goals are, where they're stuck. You help them figure out steps that they can take to move forward. You're a nudge, to use that word. You help them realize that sometimes they might have to put part of the steps aside and move to something else. Help somebody see possibilities where they don't see possibilities.
Right, exactly.
I have a client that part of her homework was to start going through all these boxes that she boxed up when she had to move home and take care of her mother. And it made her realize that she wanted to move back to where she came from. That's where her real support system was. And so then it was working to get her there.
Yeah.
So goals can change, can move. Again, it's a lot of about possibilities. And you have to know when to say, I'm not a doctor, but I think you should. You know, you might want to see a therapist. I'm not a lawyer. I used to practice law, so I could say, you know, I think you have a legal issue here, but I'm not your lawyer. So, you know, a really good life coach, and I believe I am one, you have to know what your boundaries are.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah.
And I'm also, in my literature, I use the word intuitive. I work with angels and guides and to provide guidance through them. You can find out life path information, again, health information, but I will frequently say, but I'm not a doctor. This is what they're telling me. Right. Sometimes something will come through where they suggest that they get certain kinds of tests, and I will frame it like, they're not saying there's anything awful or bad here. You know, it's not to be worried about. It just, maybe they want you to have a baseline. So that, because I'm not a doctor, I don't know why they're suggesting that stuff.
The angels.
The angels.
Yes.
Yes. And so it can be about things at your current work, you know. I remember somebody came and she wanted to know about her job, and they were just quite frank, and they said, get your resume ready now. And, you know, and blah, blah, blah. And it was like, and they were quite clear about the time period, and I got feedback a couple years later that it happened exactly like that. And that they, you know, but don't worry, you're gonna find something. And at the end of the 2-week notice period, she found a job.
That's cool. So how do you go about that? How do you go about knowing what the angels are saying?
People have different gateways to it, as I call it. Some people use tarot cards, some people psychometry, where you hold a watch or a ring or some possession. Other people, it just flows through. My gateway is called automatic writing. And I take a pen and they just start to write. And
Yeah, I've
that's-
seen that.
And I know at the same time what they're saying. And that's how I provide their guidance.
Is it something like that you have to concentrate on the person that you're trying to read from, or how does that work?
They have to have it, the people who come and they sit there like this, it's probably not going to happen.
Right.
Because they're so closed down. And it takes you as a psychic being open and being grounded at the same time. So it's this interesting thing of being really grounded in yourself, but connected. But the person has to be open, or other it causes some difficulty. And if you get somebody who is really interested and really open, it just flows. And otherwise, you just kind of have to work at it a little bit, but not show you're working at it.
Right. So people don't actually know, what's going on. I've always found that fascinating, and I've known a few people that I guess have said that they were like palm readers and stuff like that, that over my life has said things to me that have meant something to me. And
sometimes it doesn't mean something right away.
Right. Yeah, that's what I understand, and I think the difference between me and you as far as writing or inspiration or whatever is that you've been educated in that way. And for me, it's more like, okay, I'm going to get up, think positive, and what am I going to do today, to change myself and, maybe help somebody else. And it's just like it gets there when I see somebody, and it's just like it comes right out that, I'm just talking about my life and somehow it touches them. And that's inspirational. I think it's inspirational
Right.
walking through life, too, is that people can actually sit, be in their spot, and just let it out.
Right, and there's numbers of ways to do that.
You
Stream
want
of
to talk about a
consciousness.
few of those?
Yeah, I will sometimes. I give what I call homework.
Oh, homework.
Because the life coaching process, how much you get, how much it helps you, depends on how much work you do.
Right.
And even with the intuitive, the guidance will only help you if you do the work. I'm not a fortune teller. I'm not 100% correct. Any psychic who tells you they're 100% correct, run like crazy. Makes me nervous. But you have to do the work. So if the angels come through and say they'd like to see you do whatever, if you sit and do nothing, it's not going to happen. It's like The Secret. Some people think that you just envision it,
Right.
and it happens. No, you envision it and then you make it work. Work to happen. And as a life coach, it's the same thing. So it will give homework. Sometimes it's stream of consciousness journaling. Sometimes it's a meditation exercise. Sometimes it will be, and I got this exercise from one of the main teachers at the certification program, Carlotta Tyler, where you write, you have like 3 lines, your lifeline, your work line, and then the line where you have the emotions you're feeling. And you could start at birth. You could start at some major event. So the first line is these major events that are happening in your life that you remember, and then major work events, and then what the emotions are. And I had a client who realized that she'd been carrying anger around for 50 years. And which caused issues with self-worth, which caused cluttering, which caused, and again, I'm not a psychologist,
Right.
but she was enough aware that, I didn't feel that I needed to refer her to a therapist, but other people I have.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just hard to move beyond that. I guess move beyond the pain or
Right,
or
but she
whatever
wasn't,
is
she
going
had so,
on. So you need
she
a little
had so
help.
buried it,
Oh yeah, yeah.
that she didn't, she was like 6, when some of it wasn't abuse, it was just weird family stuff. And
Yeah, and then for it all to come crashing down, this has happened to me. I don't know how many times, and it's always like, well, how do I pick back up? How do I keep going? How do I go from this to this? And how do I go on now that I've discovered this about myself?
well, at least for her, it was
Yeah, what
more
would you-
a self-awareness and a letting go,
Yeah,
because she had enough self-awareness about things and was healthy enough that she could just say, oh, that's why.
but they, like they say that some people are aware of that and some people aren't. And I see it all the time that there's so many people that say the difference between me say 10 years ago and now, but this is something that I have to work at every day. It's not something
Sure.
that just happens, like that. And I think that's what you're talking about, helping somebody to actually keep in that spot and keep on moving on.
Right. And as appropriate, refer them, suggest that.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't make somebody go see a therapist or a
Yeah,
doctor,
right.
but as appropriate as, I really think it would be good if you.
Right. And there's no shame in that, by asking for help and going to get it, because when you do that, then you're setting yourself up for success, because, okay, now I'm going to work on this one thing in my life, and I'm going to ask for help and get it,
Right.
Because I can't move on unless I do.
But in some ways, I think that opening the heart is based on that as well. It's
Yeah.
helping you, as Linda and I would say, my book designer, it's to help you see how you want to be in relation to yourself, to others, the world, and the divine, and to go really deep into your heart and see your story.
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
So the book has, as you've shown, can we show them some of the, so the first,
It's so wonderful.
the first section, as I said, it's 28 pairs. So,
Yep.
so there's, I don't know which camera.
I think probably the middle one, or this
So
one
there's
here.
pairs with
Yep.
the statement, like this one is the heart is a receptor, and then the second one is the heart is a transmitter. And this is a chicory flower, and this is obviously a water lily. Well, if you go to part 2, there's expanded text on it that you can read or not read
Nice.
as a trigger for your own thoughts. Part 3 is actually some exercises.
Oh, nice. So it's actually like a book of inspiration, a book of what you can put down that you get from that, too?
Yeah, there's some
After you
journaling
write?
pages.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
we would, and as we suggest in the book, that if you run out of journaling pages, get another journal.
Exactly. Yeah. Or continue on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that can absolutely be done. And I'm looking at this, and you wouldn't say it's simple, but when you look at the flowers, it's like, wow, right there it is in front of me. I can see it and I can read this right here, and also see and you just get the feeling. I think anyway, it just like jumps at you. You get
Yeah.
kind of an inspirational feeling.
I mean, so you can do it for an in-depth meditation. You can leave it out for contemplation, but that one that you opened right there.
Yeah,
in the
no,
middle
you
of,
just opened to it too, didn't you?
It opened when I was moving. I was running around like you get crazed when you move, and I went wait. And I went over to the book, and I got that. Breathe deeply, breathe slowly. You can breathe through anything.
Yeah, exactly.
And the counterpart to that is action is the counterpart to breath. Be in the world. So that's the duality of being slow and full of breath, and moving through things, but then at the same time bringing what you dream during your breathing out into action in the world. And it's either or and both.
Yeah, I absolutely love this. I am so glad that you gave this to me, and it's just going to be one of the most powerful tools that I'll probably have for.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, seriously, I've never actually seen a book like this, and it's just so awesome. I just can't wait to read them all, and then read the section where they have more about each one, and actually do the journey, And I think work like this is so important for everybody. I just think they got to stop, find the reason, and then go after it instead of saying, I ain't got time for that, or I often hear that from people. I haven't got, exactly.
It can be 5 minutes. I once saw an Oprah show, we're talking about meditation, and she said, start with a minute.
Yep.
That's all you've got. And meditation can be sitting here, and it's not, a lot of people think that you have to do which really is Zen meditation. We sit, lotus, on a cushion, lotus position, staring at a blank wall. No, you can. I once went to a lecture by a Tibetan Buddhist monk, and he was saying, no, just sit in a chair and be comfortable. And that's all you have to do is you can just sit here and close your eyes and follow your breath. Your mind will wander.
Yep.
So it's normal. As I say, probably there are very few of us who don't. Maybe the Dalai Lama.
Yeah.
And you go, oh, okay, and you bring it back. And some days it will be a blissful experience, and some days you'll sit there and you'll be like gritting your teeth and like, why did I bother? And
Yeah. Well, some of the things, I mean, for me to get into meditation, one of the ways that I had to do that was first realize that relaxation was hard for me. and I found this wonderful music that
Yes.
has like, you know, rivers and stuff like that, and I noticed it started taking me other places. And I was actually in a hospital at the time when I realized that this really worked, because I was so anxious that I could not sleep. And I'm just listening to this music, and the next thing I know, I had slept.
Right, and
I
so
woke up
if you're going to use
refreshed.
music, I recommend you either have something that has no words, or maybe is in a language that you don't understand.
Yeah.
So you're not
Thinking about
distracted
the
words.
words, or thinking, yeah.
Right.
Because there's a time to listen to the radio with the songs, and then there's a time for meditation, relaxation, and self-soothing. It's just so
Right.
important, you know. And a lot of people don't know how to do that.
Yeah, and it's all a
Self-soothe,
continuum to me.
Yeah.
You know, prayer, meditation, contemplation. Contemplation, you know, there is actually a Christian tradition of meditation and contemplation, which people don't know about as much. You know, it exists in all, I think, all religions. You know, there is a mystical aspect to Judaism, you know, not just, you know, the Sufis in the mystical aspect often of Islam.
So tell me a little bit about the angels. How do you recognize that's what they are, and where they're positioned at, and how you can actually feel?
I don't really see them.
You feel them, or
Sometimes, but it's more often just through the automatic.
writing, yeah.
Although every once in a while, I have a thought and I know it's them. In a condo I lived in over 10 years ago back in Illinois, I had to go out. You had to go to the laundry room. You had to go out, across the courtyard, and into the laundry room. And I was like, rah, 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 one day about doing laundry, and suddenly they popped into my head and said, "Having you do laundry is not so bad."
yeah.
And I'm like, what do you mean? You don't have. But then I thought about it, and they're saying, you know, you're able to do it. You know, you're able to do it. You have a place to do it. So doing laundry's not. It's like that's not so bad.
I know, you know, and I think, you know, a lot of us hang on to things that we've been told we can't do. So we kind of like, okay, this is where I'm going to stay stuck, because this is where everybody said I could. But if you can see in your mind, just overcome that one, erase that tape where people are telling you you can't. Overcome your comfort zone to try to do
Right.
it, and then go do it. And then if it's, you know, easy to this point, and you can't go any further, then go back next day, go out. And this is what worked for me when I so badly suffered from agoraphobia, and finally getting out there, you know. And it's just the challenge, and then succeeding in that challenge makes you feel so good. And then
I
before
think
you know
you've
it,
done splendidly. You're sitting here in front
yeah,
of the
I
camera.
know, right in front of TV, you know.
Well, that made me think, because when I started doing the automatic writing, it got suggested to me in a couple ways. It was like,
Yeah.
really? And I'm kind of like, and I'm sitting there, and it was a lot of work to do it. But it also made me think of another client story, which was, which sometimes as a life coach, when somebody tells you their story and I can't blah, 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 there may be very good reasons why they can't, but they've just accepted the story. So I can remember looking at somebody and saying, why not? And then working from that point. You know, so sometimes it's that question. Why? I had to go from why me on the psychic to
Yeah,
why
right.
not me to like, damn, I'm really good at this, you know?
Yep.
And I hope that doesn't seem arrogant to people out there watching, but
No, because I mean, I think that's what I believe anyway, that everybody could look at and succeed so much so that, you know, if you just take that one step, you know, if you look at comfort zones as something to challenge yourself with, that you can go beyond that and succeed in whatever it is that you would really like to do. That's just my feeling. And the only reason I feel that way is because that's what I did, and, you know, and that's what worked for me. And and I have to make it a positive every day. Even though you have negative days, you know, you have to kind
Sure.
of draw yourself out of that. Okay,
but if you
I went
name
there,
what's
yeah.
going on,
Yeah.
and I think part of the life coaching business is to help people name what's going on, so then you can find the appropriate ways to deal with whatever that is.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's good that we have life coaches. I think that's wonderful. I know for me it was something that I was unaware of, but I was in a holistic hospital when this all came about for me. And it's strange though, because I didn't get it right away. I didn't get it, you know, but it's always in back here. And then I got it. But it was later on, many years later. And sometimes that happens too,
Right.
you know.
It can take a while for it all to
Soak
integrate.
in and actually say, this can work, you know. This can, you can, yeah, absolutely. But I want to talk a little bit more about the book.
Great.
Yeah, I was going to say, we should just pick one of these and just talk about what that
Okay. So
specific
pick a
one-
number from 1 through 56.
35.
Okay. And I have to confess, I do not have the numbers
Memorized? Why not?
Okay, so this is the pair, and the number that you picked, Linda, is accept and use what ancient wisdom has to give us. That often in the rush for the modern, because the other part of the pair is accept what modern wisdom has. It's not either or, and often people will just shove all the ancient stuff away. And as you know how the herbalism is coming back,
Yes.
and all of, and the shamanic is coming back. But let me read you what came through. A lot of this was channeled by from the angels. So that is the wrong number. So ancient wisdom, which flows down to us through the centuries, is the things of the heart and spirit that ring true, that work no matter the current state of thought or technology. Not all old things are of ancient wisdom, so you must sort and sift carefully to discern what ancient wisdom has to give us. Once you find it, then you can use it. What can you do to find ancient wisdom? How will you know it when you find it? To what use can you put it?
That's good.
Would you like to hear the...
Yeah.
So the other one is modern wisdom has much to offer to use it. And the flowers are a rose and a water lily. Seeking out ancient wisdom to use today does not mean that we should categorically reject modern wisdom. Not all wisdom was revealed in ancient times. Some come slowly, excuse me, some come slowly as it is needed. New wisdom builds on the old, the ancient, but not all new knowledge or technology should be embraced by everyone or in all situations. What can you do to distinguish what is new wisdom to be used from new knowledge is not something to be incorporated into your life. I mean, sometimes I'll see things that we're capable of now, and I'll go, but just because we can, should we?
Exactly. Just because we can, should we? Yeah. I mean, and I think that's perfect. That's perfect saying, because you never know. I mean, what you think about something that has happened years and years ago that people used for wisdom, what they thought. It's like going back in time about what they thought about the women Mormon, mourning over their lost husbands or whatever. And it carried on for, like, some people 40 years, where others wouldn't want to go that long. It was a personal decision, but that was the wisdom part. Was what did you do when you mourn, and what you should do from what you mourn, and you bring it into the modern day, and it's like it's really up to you. You know?
Right.
It's really up to you what you feel.
I think it's also partly learning critical thinking skills. Sometimes people rush in and they just accept things, and they don't step back and say, really?
Yeah.
Because even there are people and stuff that floats around in my business, and I go, really? It's like, step back, think about it.
Take your time, walk slow. Walk slow, enjoy the path.
Again, and breathe deeply through it.
Yeah, sometimes we forget to breathe, huh?
Oh yeah, literally, Americans can forget. We stop breathing.
I totally can see that. I've done that a few times, So you have to, I've had to stop and say, okay.
Fortunately, it's usually for a second or two that
Yeah.
you stop breathing.
Yeah, because then you're holding your breath, and so you absolutely have to breathe. Absolutely. And I wanted to talk a little bit with you, too, if we could, because there's a lot of people that lose loved ones and grieve, or don't know what the process of grieving is when they do lose somebody. And I didn't know if maybe that was something that you could talk a little bit about, the grieving process when you lose a family member or a loved one. What's some of the things
it's different for everybody.
Yeah.
And I would strongly suggest that people explore grief groups. There are grief groups out there. And a good one would be everybody listens to everybody and doesn't judge. And you can express what you're feeling. Because it's some people, I lost both my parents very close together. And so I had this very intense grief situation, but it got delayed by having to do the estate work. And, and you should also have a respectful counselor
Yes.
in the
for sure.
grief group, because I expressed to somebody my beliefs and I got stepped on by, I was like forcing my belief on that person, and the person clearly didn't think that. So I would, it is so individual. I'm not sure that I can really give.
Yeah, because because I was thinking about actually what happened to my mother, and there's 5 girls in the family, and each one of us grieved in a different way,
Right.
and I never realized that was the way it went, was that everybody works through it or experiences it in different ways.
Ways.
Yeah.
Because even though you were sisters, your experiences weren't exactly the same.
Exactly. Yeah.
Isn't that interesting in a family?
Yeah, but you got to realize that. That it sounded like I should be feeling the same way my sisters are, and I wasn't. It was like totally different for me than it was for my sisters, and
Well, what I
finding
can
out.
say is I am not what I call a direct medium, because I don't communicate generally directly with the deceased, but we can ask through the angels and guides for information about them. And often what comes through is that once they have transitioned and done whatever that means for them, being in the unconditional presence of love, the presence of unconditional love of the Creator, it's just like it all goes away.
Yeah.
It's like, don't worry about the stuff, the things. It's like, you can let the things go, we don't care.
It was like for me when I went into meditation afterwards. I can remember thinking about where or how my mom got to heaven. So I wrote this down. It was really different. I wrote down like the experience of the trip from the hospital bed to heaven, and it was just so beautiful. And the experience, and then I wrote it, and I found myself doing that, going further and further into what I thought was happening for her there. And then I soon found afterwards that I could actually be there with her. And that wasn't strange to me.
No, it's not. And they do come and visit. In doing the work with people, it is often comes through that they're escorted. They're not alone on the other, they're angels and guides and family members friends who've passed over come and greet them and help them with the transition. There are people who have fought the transition. They haven't wanted to leave. One of the best things I think that you can do if you're capable, and we don't do it enough in this culture, we don't talk about death,
Right.
is to let your loved one know it's okay. That they don't have to stay if it's their time.
Right.
I have an aunt who, I think she's 99 years old now,
Wow.
and I swear one of her kids is keeping her here because she's got severe macular degeneration.
Oh, wow.
I stopped calling to talk to her because I don't think she knew who I was anymore.
Right.
So it's like, why, in my view, somebody is keeping her here. Can't let go.
Yeah. Well.
And so one of the best gifts you could give your loved one is to let them go.
Yeah. And if you can imagine where they're going, I guess that's what made it easier for me, I think, was to actually go through the process of really thinking about how this was going to happen, where she was going to go. And, it doesn't mean because she's not going alone, obviously, and that I would never see her again, or that I would never experience being with her, or have memories.
The deceased will come in dreams.
Oh, yeah. I had to sit and have coffee with my mother all the time. Because that's what we used to do,
Yeah, so, and I firmly come to believe that there is no such thing as, a place called hell. There's no such place called purgatory. What it is to me is that it's being in the presence of unconditional love and accounting to yourself for yourself.
Yeah.
And I think going through stages of grief about that, and some people, maybe because you've done a lot of work here, it might be because there's no time in heaven, in the metaphysical world. So it might be like that, and other people it might be a bit longer. Because it's one of those quantum things. There is time, there is no time.
Yeah. And I agree with you with no purgatory or hell, because I just can't see that being a place where if you're unconditionally loved or loved, that you would go.
And how does your soul learn when you're stuck in that?
Right, exactly. Well, you know, this is such a great topic, and I would love to have you actually come back and talk
Great,
a
I would
little bit
love it.
more. And I want to make sure that everybody gets to see the book again.
Okay.
I'm not sure which camera I'm on. I'm going to go with the middle camera. Okay, so this is the book, and it's called Opening the Heart. And I want to make sure everybody, I'm going to turn to a different page, and hopefully we don't get the water lily in the, oh, we got a different flower. Look at that, see? Did you realize that we opened up to that water lily and the rose like 3 different times during this whole conversation?
There's only 5 plants in the book. So
Oh, okay.
So that's why they
Oh.
repeat.
Well, then what's this one?
That's chicory.
You'll see? We did open to that once, didn't we?
So there's chicory, water lilies, roses, loose strife, and honeysuckle berries. So they're not 56 different plants. It's
Okay, yeah, but they all have their own meaning, and it's nice to read about them and actually read what they're all about. And oh, that's the berry. See, I'm seeing them all now, and I didn't see them before. But isn't this great that you can have us sitting on your table, you know, and you get up in the morning. What's my inspiration? Where's my positive thoughts, and what am I going to do with them? Or
even if what it is looking at the plant and have the plant speak to
inspire you. Exactly. Yeah. And that's kind of strange because I do that when I have my gardens too. Is go out and water them. While you water them, you're looking at them and thinking about what is it that I need to do for today, you know. So I'm very grateful that Kathryn gave me this book, and she said she was going to sign it. And I want to make sure, Kathryn, that everybody knows where to go to get this book.
Okay, it's on Amazon. It's on Barnes & Noble online. It's also in 3 e-versions. And you can get it through my website as well, which is www.kathrynsamuelson.com. You can email me at klsamuelson@yahoo if you're interested in a reading or working on life coaching work.
I think that's great. And I wasn't aware that there was anybody that did this around here. So it's great to see that, and to, I think more people would like to see that and to hear more from you and your story, and and what you're doing next. What happens after the book?
Well, I'm working on a second book.
Are you?
A book of poems based on the meditations, the plants, and the exercises. It's coming slowly because it's inspired.
Yep.
So it's going to be 60, 70 poems.
Oh, that's going to be so nice. And like I said, just something like this is it's handy. You have it on your magazine rack, or you have it right there on your coffee table, and you can just reach for it and just open it up.
You can get a book stand on Amazon really inexpensively. So you could open it up. If you wanted to work with one image and not the other of the pair, just put a piece of paper over the second one.
That's neat. That's a good idea. Yeah, absolutely. So again, I just thank you so much for coming and sharing this with us,
Well, thank you for
sharing what you
having
do
me.
for your life, and this is really inspirational for me, and I know I'm going to get a lot out of this myself. And
Thank you.
I really appreciate it, and really appreciate the book. And I'm going to use it, right?
Right.
So anyway, I want to tell all the audience out there that this information will be on the show at the end of the show, and we will have addresses and emails and all of that there. So you look forward to that right after the show. So I wouldn't go anywhere. I just check it out and see what you can find out, and look up Kathryn and find out more about her and what she does, and maybe let this happen for you too.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Kathryn. Thank you very much for being on Walking Through Life, and hopefully you come back. This is
Sure.
great. I think this is a great
Yeah.
topic.
I'd love to.
Yeah. So anyway, this is Linda Carbonell, and we're saying goodbye for Walking Through Life today, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Walking through this life of mine, well, it's teaching me so many things, like how to love and and how to lose and how